Okay. Can we start by going back to what made you want to go and fight in Ukraine?
Um, it was a combination of things. I mean, the biggest one was simply because of what was going on at the time and what the Russians were doing. Um, I think the biggest one is when you see Bucha, and I think that was probably one of the biggest factors, simply because what I seen was wrong. And another thing that a lot of people won't say is I wanted to see how good myself as a soldier was. So it was a lot of it, the main part was to I thought I could help with what was happening, but the other part of it was I want to see how good I thought I was. So it was an opportunity to see combat and actually do a job I've trained for.
Were you in the military in your home country too?
Yes, I was.
Yeah. What made you want to join the military to begin with?
I don't know. It was like ever since I was a kid, it's always been something I've wanted to do. Like my friends back home, they even say when they were running around in football jerseys, I was running around in camouflage playing dress up as a soldier. So I think it was always there, just always something I've always wanted to do.
Yeah, it sounds like you were just destined for that.
Yeah.
What what surprised you when you came to Ukraine? Was it at all like what you expected?
Um, I wasn't like naive or silly coming here, but the everything I seen was at the start of the invasion, and there's a lot more sort of maneuverability,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a fighting in streets, there's a fighting in Kiev, and it looks people will see it and think it looks cool or whatever. So I was kind of expecting that sort of thing, like a
Mm-hmm.
modern war. Um, but when I got here, it was trained for a while, and then I was the first thing I did was take a trench. So that was probably a bit different, but it's still part of it. Like, it's gone a lot more static in some areas, so it's that was probably the biggest sort of surprise, that go take a trench instead of the high speed urban fighting.
Yeah, I gather, early in the war, it was just quite a bit different in terms of the missions that everyone was doing versus
Yeah,
no.
absolutely.
Do you think there's any way you could have ever been mentally prepared for what you experienced?
um I'd say, yeah. I think it's probably different from other people. I think the biggest thing for me was the training builds confidence, but it wasn't necessarily just your training that helps you. I think a lot of it is just the silly things in training, like your boot camp stuff, and your just the silly things like doing press ups, staying out in the cold, and just doing like shit things to build up that sort of mental resilience. I think the mental resilience is probably the biggest thing, because when you're just sitting in a trench and you can't move and you gotta like soak up shelling, it doesn't matter how good you are. It's if your mind can put up with it. So probably that sort of stuff. And just the silly things to do in training where everyone's like, why the fuck am I doing this? But when I was the same, but when I came here, I realized it's to build up that mental resilience so you can put up with that sort of stuff.
What do you think worked to help you build up that resilience? Was there anything specific that helped?
I wouldn't say like like specific. I think um, probably like there's probably hard things happen, and when I was growing up, wasn't you know I wasn't any worse than anyone else, but I've figured out a way to like just deal with things. And even before I joined the military, but in the military, it was can't keep challenging yourself, and when you keep doing hard things, your brain kind of can put up with doing hard things and gets used to it. So I think it's a combination of all factors and just how you're able to deal with things.
Yeah, that makes sense. What do you think is something that's really difficult, something that a civilian or somebody who's never been in war would never think about, but something that just for you, you're thinking that this has been really actually hard to go through, or a challenge that you never know unless you've been there?
I mean, probably like it's probably a combination of small things. Like everyone sees the war, or like the combat footage, and that's that's 10% of what happens. Mm-hmm. It's when you're living in like a damp bunker full of insects, and you're eating horrible, well, not horrible food, but you're eating bad food, and you just got to constantly put up with it's a combination of little things. You're shitting in a hole in the ground. So I'd say that's probably the toughest thing. If you come from somewhere nice and you're not used to it, and then you get put to living in bad conditions for a very long period of time, that can be a challenge.
Yeah, that adds to the stress level too.
Yeah.
In terms of the living conditions, I know obviously you've been in Ukraine for quite a while at this point. Do you ever get to a point where you're just like, I can't do this anymore? I just really can't.
No, I wouldn't say so. Like I probably haven't. I haven't been somewhere that long to feel that, but who knows? If you're there for a long time, I imagine it would eventually happen. But it's like I couldn't say. I mean, when I was there, you put up with it. It's your job. You came here to do this, and you're not expecting to stay in the Hilton or the Ritz or anything. So, all your mates are there. Go have a cigarette. You just talk for hours about silly things when you can, and keep your mind off it. But yeah, if everyone's there, you just all get through it together. So it's okay.
So obviously, I know a lot of your teammates as well, and you guys do talk about a lot of silly things. Are there any things that jump out to you? Just things where it's like a coping mechanism that you guys talk about, or something that's helpful that keeps you all going?
Yeah, I mean, probably a lot of the stuff you couldn't say because people would be like, "What the fuck?" But no, honestly, it's just you just get to a certain level. It's just like talking, like we're talking. I don't know what people say. Talking shite, I'd call it. You're just talking about random things like, would you rather fight 10 B-sized humans or 100-sized bees? Just shit like that. It's random, but just when you're with the lads, it's you can talk about anything.
Yeah, I get it. I had one of your teammates texting me a lot, asking me what color I thought a taco was, and he was really into that. And it was really, you guys had a long discussion about the color of tacos.
Yeah, it's silly things like that. Once you get to a certain level of nothingness, that's what you start talking about, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. What's the biggest challenge you've got being away from home? Obviously, you're fairly far away, haven't been able to visit home so much. What's the toughest part about that?
It's probably, you have people at home worrying about you, and, they'll let you know that they're worrying about you, and, missing a lot of family events, like, births or weddings or stuff, and you just get sent pictures and, you're not there. And then people at home, they may not necessarily, they can, but it's hard for them to understand. So it's that sort of thing can be difficult. Just, missing like major events with family or friends and stuff, and, not being there. But it's just, sacrifice you have to make, like how many, it can sound selfish when you're trying to explain it to people at home who don't understand, but.
What do you mean by it can seem selfish? Can you say more about that?
Like people, if I don't have to be here. my first time here, and then I went home for a bit, and now I'm back again. It's like I don't have to be here. So your family, oh, you've done your bit. That's what they'll be saying, but it's hard to to them it feels to me like sometimes it's selfish that I come here and I'm not there, but it's my job. So it's hard to explain to your family, and they may not understand. So with me missing stuff and births and stuff because I want to be here, like I want to be here, they don't want me here,
Mm-hmm.
So not selfish, and just like it can feel that way sometimes, I imagine, for not just for me, for a few people.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, they're worried about you too. I mean, if they
Yeah,
care about you, they want things to happen to
yeah,
you.
yeah.
When you say that you want to be there and you need to be there, where do you think this sense of duty comes from that you have?
I don't I don't really. I mean,
I know it's a tough
I don't
question.
know. Yeah. Um. I don't know. Like, it's just something. I think when I was a kid, I was a massive like history nerd,
Hmm.
and like I was a fat kid. I wore glasses, and I was a proper nerd when it came to history. But my big thing was like World War II history, and I was just like obsessed with it. I knew everything about it, and I got really interested. And I looked at, you read about people and you read about like battles, and like I think there's probably a lot to do with that, and seeing like these guys that would go off and fight the Nazis, and it's just was something that I don't know. I think it's hard to explain. Maybe there's probably been other stuff as well, but can't. It's hard to answer off the top of my head. But I think a
Hmm.
big part of it was probably reading like history and just seeing all these guys, and they'd be my like I'd look up to that, and then I had the opportunity to do it myself. So I wanted to be one of them guys, I suppose. So maybe one day I'll get there.
Do you see any parallels between Russia's invasion of Ukraine and World War II?
Yeah, big time. Like that's what I say. Like a lot of the wars over the past, since World War II haven't been exactly black and white.
Hmm.
Even if people say they are, or try to make themselves believe they are, but I think nothing's ever black and white. But I think this war is probably, I'd consider it one of the most black and white since you know World War II. Like a
Hmm.
big country, a big military power invaded another country and started, they killed civilians. They're putting kids into like re-education camps. So I think it is very similar in my eyes, at least.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. Most wars, there's more of a question of who's on the right side. This one, I don't think anybody really has any doubts that Ukraine is on the right side of this.
No,
Can we go back to, when you said when you watched what happened in Bucha and that made you want to go and help? Were there any specific things that you learned about that really moved you to go?
not specific things. Like I think I remember like there was a dude and he was showing like the graves and the ages, and one of the ages on the grave was the age of one of my younger family members. So I think I was just like, fuck that.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that was probably it was just fucking crazy, and it happening in this day and age. I was like, I wanted to go and fucking kill the people that did this. So, and it's just come, and there's other incidents as well of it, and I remember seeing them, but it was like, what the fuck's going on? And then there was a big push for aid in Ireland, but I was like, my friend was here already and he was fighting, and I was like, I can go pick. He said it was pretty easy enough to go pick up a rifle and go and fight them. So
Hmm.
that's what I wanted to do.
Do you feel like you've been able to make a difference?
Um, yeah, it's not me. It's the entire effort. It's everyone here is a piece in a machine. So it's not me personally, but I mean, our group are chosen especially, so all the lads have. Um, so I can't say me personally, but when when all of us are together, yeah, we definitely have.
Yeah, I think, you guys of any team, you got a really strong sense of morale and camaraderie, a strong sense of team identity.
Hmm.
Where do you think that comes from? Not every team has that. That's a uniquely chosen kind of thing.
Um, I think it was like obviously. So I think the big difference was we had the like the earlier group guys, the start of 2023. Um, I think this is all public anyway. In second battalion, um, we had a lot of trust in Ryan. Like in second battalion, we were getting like dicked about with bureaucracy and stuff, and that's when a lot of guys wanted to splinter off. But we were very close because we were going through that the bullshit at the time, and even then we were training every day. So like, yeah, we had a lot of trust in our own like our company leadership, and that's why we followed Ryan. It was like it was professional, but it was chilled out at the same time. So you could have a laugh. You could kind of do what you wanted within means, and I think it just created a really good culture and a great group of fighting guys.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I remember when you guys were in second bat and people
Yeah,
weren't so happy at that point.
yeah.
Understandably so.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, since getting to chosen, though, you guys have had some really tough missions. You've had some losses.
Yeah,
Um, how do you think that's affected you guys as a team? I've got the sense that you've become all really close after going through that together.
yeah. I mean, when it happens, I think it motivates us more, and um, it does. These guys. It's a big family, and when one of the boys does, we do lose one of the boys. It's always bad, but everyone here knows the risk, and the training and the fighting we do, we take a lot of the risks out of it, but it does happen, and there's nothing you can do, especially in this scale of war, and the sheer amount of munitions that get dropped on you or come at you from the enemy side. But it's always going to happen. But everyone knows, and it just motivates us even more. I'd say, you want to, one of the lads goes down, you want to go back out and keep going. So we've always been close, and it does, and it's never going to change. It sucks losing the guys, but it's going to happen. But yeah, we keep going, and we're still, morale's always high, and we're still going to keep going.
Yeah, yeah, no, that definitely makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys have a unique experience of the war, a tough one, and one that you can't always share with everybody.
Yeah.
Do you think people at home, your friends and family, are ever able to understand what you've gone through, or is there just a gap that can't be bridged?
I don't see it as I've gone through something, and I don't know, it's a hard question to answer. Like, no one, like, from the when you go out there, it's like a different planet. So I never expect anyone to understand. But I don't, and it's the same here. And for we try to we all look out for each other, and there's never, don't turn it into anything negative, and take it out on anyone, because everyone here is a volunteer. So you're able to go, you don't have to be here. So I don't expect people to understand what goes on here. I don't really want my family to understand what goes on here. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Sometimes you want to have that safe space too, where they don't know those things.
Yeah.
What's a what's the thing that you've actually loved or really enjoyed in Ukraine? Anything that you've discovered that's pretty awesome?
Um, in Ukraine in general, or like my experience here.
Could be either one, your experience or just in general, but however you want to answer it.
I think the biggest thing here is just the lads I've met. You know, not just chosen. I mean, Ukrainian lads.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just like that's why you know, when I was coming back, I was excited to come back to see all the lads. It's just like some of the best people I've genuinely ever met. You know, and I'm not just saying that. It's not just chosen lads. I mean, the lads out here and the women volunteering are in like insanely good at what they do, and their like outlook on life is insane as well. It's like so insanely good, not insane, but yeah, that's probably a big aspect. And then, you know, just like I'm a lot younger, so I've learned a lot here. You know, to bring home in the future, not military, but just in general in life. So that's one of the big things. And then Ukraine itself. Ukraine is class. Like I love this country. It's just the people are so nice. And you know, when I was on the train, even when I'm on the train and like old women are force feeding me food and like making my bed on the bed train, like it's just a really good culture. And in both sides, in the military side and you know, the civvy side.
Yeah, you are quite a bit younger than most of the foreign volunteers who are fighting.
Yeah.
Um, how do they treat you? Are you kind of the little brother to everybody?
No, I wouldn't say that. And fucking, if anyone's listening to this, they can fuck off. But no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't say so. I don't think I wouldn't say I get treated any different. Maybe at the very very start, but I think I think I think once I went out, because I kept begging to go on a mission, and I think they were probably like, you know, I proved then that I knew what the fuck I was doing. So I always had that sort of against me, my age against me. So I always, you know, I wanted to prove that I knew what the fuck I was doing, and I certainly did. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't say I get treated any different particularly. So,
What's something that I know you had military experience before, but this is, you know, a different level of combat,
yeah,
war that everybody said they're not prepared for.
yeah.
Is there anything you think could have prepared you better? Any training you could have had that could help, or is it just you have to experience it to know what it's like?
No, there was definitely training, and that needs to be taught to these the Western militaries.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, any Western country that is taking experience from this war, you know, good on them, because it could happen. And even in the future, and it's not just, you know, a major conflict like this, like even, I'm not going to name certain countries, but certain countries don't want to learn. And, you know, even if they're going out on peacekeeping operations, there's still the drone threat. And that's something that hasn't been seen before. And it really needs to be implemented into training, and all this everything to do with all the systems, and you know, the technicals of it, because you know, Ukraine has, like, a lot of the lessons learned here were paid with a massive price. So these other countries are getting a free pass. So, you know, it's a 360 3D battlefield now. Like, you're looking down for mines, you're looking up for drones, and then everywhere else for your infantry and your mortars. So I think training it really needs to start improving in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Because if not, and eventually, like, the world's never been at peace. Eventually these guys are going to end up having to do something, whether it's minor or major. They need to learn.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's a lot of lessons that I've heard from everybody's fought that they've been asked to, come back and train their home country's military, which makes sense that they know how to.
Yeah.
What, obviously this war is not going to end anytime soon, unfortunately. Do you think you'll be in Ukraine for a long time?
Yeah, I will be, for the foreseeable future. So, we'll see how it goes, but you never know. It's all up to politicians and people way more important than me. So I'll be here and let them figure it out.
When you look back on, you said when you were a kid, you always wanted to be a soldier. You were kind of born for this.
Yeah.
Do you think you were right that this is what you were meant to do?
100%. I think coming here is the best decision I've ever made for me personally. I've been able to learn a lot and do the job I've always wanted. As bad as it is sometimes, and as good as it is sometimes, it's what I wanted to do. So I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. A lot of people never get that feeling, never discover what they're meant to do. So
yeah.
Thank you for doing this. It's good for people to hear from you guys from your perspective. So
no problem.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too.